Hey all, with this video I'm hoping to do something finally that's been requested of me multiple times before. Is a tutorial on painting, but more specifically, the eyes. The eyes are typically a more frustrating and annoying part for most people to paint. However, I'd argue if you have the materials to do it, it's easily one of the most fun parts. Now for the materials, I'm going to show every specific thing I do and use. It may seem like pampering, but I can guarantee at least one of you will benefit from this. For the paint I use, I either use Vallejo or Citadel. I prefer Vallejo because it has a dropper system in comparison to this little bucket system. I've had many of Citadel paints dry out, but quality-wise, they're pretty much the same thing. There's no real difference to it. One thing you should do prior to using any paint is thin it. Now to thin it, I use this Vallejo airbrush thinner. You find it pretty cheap on Amazon and all that. All you do is you take the cap off, bust the part open, and put just a shot of airbrush thinner in it, mix it together. Should be thin enough. For the brush, I use this. The Wargamer, if it would focus, Wargamer Insane Detail Brush. I love this brush. This has helped me with a lot of custom jobs I've done before. So as you can see, if it would focus, it's not even focusing on it. It's such a small bristle. This little bristle helps paint eyes and mouths and different like facial hair pieces and all that. It's such an essential brush, and I use it for anything I do. And another thing is for like any other like just normal brush, you don't need anything particularly special. I just typically buy generic brand Michael brushes and all that. It's all good. An underrated thing I don't see many people talk about, and I think this is essential and something you should really not skip out on, is these magnifying glasses. I use these for everything I do, and I'm specifically using it for eyes and more close-up facial thing. But you just put this on and it magnifies, and it helps you see all the small, intricate details you usually can't see with your eyes. It's around $25 on Amazon. I'll have it linked in the description with all the other stuff that I'm talking about currently. But I truly think this is the most essential part, because everybody can paint. You just need the monotony and all the work to do so, but like not everybody can see that up close and that well, so having something to help is so nice to have. For some other just off the cuff things to have, I'd recommend having a hair dryer or a heat gun. I use a Warrior heat gun, which I think I bought for like $10. It's nothing too special here. Warrior heat gun. I always have paper on you of any sort. Have a cup or something like that in order to put water in. I usually use water just in case I didn't thin the paint enough, or I want to clean the brush impromptu. I have paper under where I paint just so I can clean it off really quickly. Alright, here's the part everybody's been waiting for, the actual how to paint part. Now, a lot of this actual painting part, it's a little self-explanatory, and currently I have on the goggles and all that. It's really as basic as you fill in the area, then you put a dot. Now, I know a lot of people are like, where do I put the dot and all that, so I'll probably just show the step-by-step very briefly how to paint the eyeball. Now, also, you don't need a headstand like this. I 3D printed this myself. But if you really want something like this, I imagine there's something on eBay or just anywhere you can find stuff people make. I just have this, and then I take a little piece of Milliput tack and just put it there so I can stick it on. This is just more for presentation than it is actually for functionality. I usually just use my hands. Alright. So, the first part is to do the eyeball. The first part is to actually do the eyeball itself, as in like the background whites of your eyes. Now, for humans, our eyes aren't perfectly white. It's more of a shade of a kind of bonish, white-ish kind of color to it. It's a little off. So to obtain that, I usually use Vallejo white, and Vallejo black. And you only need a tiny bit of Vallejo black. So I'll try and show this my best. I apologize, first time doing something like this. You just pour a little bit of paint, not a whole lot. You can see how thin I have it from just using thinner. Pop down over here. And then, here, I'll try and show this off the best I can. You only need to take a little dot over here. I wouldn't recommend doing it directly into white, just in case you actually need the white or something like that. Here, just a little bit. Then you take your brush, just a teensy bit of black, then you mix it together. And trust me, it'll come out a bit gray. So you can see, if you compared the two colors, if I can show it, probably not too easy to catch on screen, but this is definitely a bit of a gray, and that's a pure white right there. So, oops, sorry, bumped the camera. So now with what you have, you take your head. I'm sorry, I'm trying my best to make this focused. You don't even really need to do this, but I'm just showing it generally because I know I could just straight paint over the white, but I know some people don't have Batman specifically that they're working on, so I thought I'd just show how to do it. But then, take your white. It's a little hard to do this whenever you're on camera. You take your white, and you just go in there. And now here's the thing that I have the benefit of, and you have the benefit of, specifically if you're painting Batman. So you can see, since I'm a little far away, it's a little hard to demonstrate, and I actually did a little oversplash. But you can see right here, I can just stroke a little bit of white, a little bit of black, and that fixes the error I made. And I usually do, since I'm right-handed, I do the eye here, right side up, but then for the other way, I flip the head. Alright. You can see, you only really need a coat or two on this color since the white typically goes over, but you can see what I mean. Just paint it in. You really need a very thin amount of paint. I recommend taking a bit of your paint. Here, I'll try to make it focus. Take your thing, just grind off a little bit of paint. You can see on the sides and on here, I just rub paint off. Alright, now as you can see, I have the whites done in the eye. And the next part is to add the black back of the eyeball, because usually you want a little bit of a black tracing around the general color of your eye. So to do that, you get just a teeny bit of black. And one thing you should always really do prior to painting something, particularly when it's based on something else, is just looking at it, inspecting how much of the eye is used with the pupil and all that. So like what percent of the white in the eye is used. So I usually do 50% total of the eyeball is the black backing. So here, try to get that out the way. So I start typically, trying to make sure this is focused, I start typically right in the middle of the eye, right there. Alright. Right here. I'd prefer, you can see how there's a little bit of that color on there and already has like a pupilless shape. I'd recommend, instead of trying to like brush, you just do little tiny dots. Doesn't need to be some perfect semicircle. Just do little dots. Tiny little dots. And here's the thing. If this is like a little bit off, you already have your eye mix over. You can just wipe this off, go right over and restart. It's nothing too serious. I might redo this myself a little bit, because you can see his eyes tilting towards... Actually, no, that's fine enough. I was going to say it looks like it's going to the right. But that's generally something to keep your eye out on, ironically, is to look at what direction your eyeball is facing towards. Because more whenever it's going towards the nose, directly a little bit in the middle, that's the best area. So now that I have the one pupil done, I'll get the other done, and then we go about the eye color. Now, for the actual pupil itself, you have to kind of give it a color base since you just use black. So I just typically take the color I mixed, or just a simple white, and I look at the pupils I have placed. See, I got those one down. And you just go directly in the middle. Fill like 50% of the eye. Nah, paint was a little too dry there. It didn't go. Here we go. Here's the thing also. I know it's there's a little bit of anxiety with this. It's just since I'm using Batman, I may mess up a little bit, but you can see the general scheme. I'm using Batman, I can just cover right over it. Probably the best model I could use because it's a little hard to show this off. Come on. Just a tap. Just a little bit of a tap. There we go. And now you can see in the eyeball how there's a little outline. It's a white dot. With that white dot, you just draw it off, and then you put the color in. Now, as you can see, I got the blue out, which this is Intenso Blue. I believe that's the name of the color. I could be wrong, and I could sound Azul Intenso Blue. That's what I have, Leo Azul Intenso Blue, and that's typically what I use for all blue eye colors. But you can see I have a little bit on a tip, and you just tap it on there. And yeah, again, I would recommend using someone like Batman, where their head is majority a simple color, just so in case you're messing up, you just go right over it. So you can see I did a little bit of oversplash myself, but give it a dry, and I'll show you the end results. But it's literally as simple as that. And if you follow my instructions, you can see pupils. It's really not that hard to do, and I don't do it in the most complex way. I've seen people do gorgeous, super realistic eyeballs, and I'm still trying to learn to get up to that point. However, I think this should suit a pretty good, general, easy to understand, basic, just tutorial on how to do eyeballs. Because I see a lot of people struggle, and I've had people pay me to paint eyes before. So I might as well just give this info away just so people can do whatever they want. One little detail I forgot to add, and I'm just adding this in the end, is to give the eyes a more realistic, like, colored look as if it's wet. What I use is Mod Podge Gloss, and I just put 2 coats on it. I put 2 coats on the eyes and the lips, and it helps accent them within the light. But yeah, this is my end result. So I thank you for watching.